Folks, welcome back to another edition of the Fightful Wrestling Weekly, brought to you by the fine folks over at Fightful.com. Joining me is Tim. Tim, how are you doing, buddy?
Could be doing better, but I mean, hey, things happen in life. Anyways, let's talk some wrestling.
Let's talk some professional wrestling. We're going to kick it off here with MLW and WWE news. So, Tim, what did Sean have to write about?
So this actually comes from Dave Meltzer in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, and Sean writes, there was a report in the newest Wrestling Observer newsletter that several MLW contracted talent were contacted by the WWE. I reached out to both MLW and WWE on the story, but I've not yet heard back about it. MLW has signed several wrestlers to exclusive multi-year deals. So this is kind of similar to what happened, I want to say, end of 2016, early 2017, with WWE and Ring of Honor when they were trying to sign Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly. And I guess kind of Steve Corino, but it wasn't that big of a deal since he wasn't like a talent. He was being used as a coach for the Performance Center. But technically, they contacted them and offered them deals before their contracts were even up with Ring of Honor. And
Which
Ring
is
of
a
Honor
big
got really
no-no.
mad. Right, and Ring of Honor threatened to sue as far as breach of contract. And now it seems like the same thing is basically happening with MLW. Go.
No, I was just saying MLW is a very, very much rising company, and I think they're going to be a really big contender when it comes to, you think of these big, I don't call them indies, I just call them big indies, where it's like, I wouldn't really consider Ring of Honor, New Japan, stuff like that indies anymore. But they're going to be a contender up there when you think about these, great promotions, PWG, Ring of Honor, New Japan Pro Wrestling, and I think MLW is definitely going to be up there, whether they have to sign, or whether they do sign WWE talents or not. I think they're going to have a lot behind them that's going to be very good.
Well, I mean, MLW's got, from what I've seen, a pretty good roster, and the thing with it is, it's like they used to be a wrestling company back in the day. I don't remember exactly when, and it's all run by Court Bauer, and then they stopped promoting wrestling, and they basically turned into a podcast network. And then Court Bauer, not late last year, but I think it was 2017, Court Bauer came with he said was a one-time only show he was promoting in Orlando, and when that did amazing, he came back with another, and then he came back with a third, and then all of a sudden they got a TV deal with Being Sports. Now, Being Sports, I don't know how many people really get Being Sports, but it seems like WWE now sees them as maybe competition. I don't know, but they've got a lot of big names.
If you're on TV, you have a good, I'm not going to say you have a clear shot, but you have a good opportunity to build your name and potentially be another outlet that people can watch professional wrestling on.
But it depends on what channel you're on, and Being Sports, it's one that not a lot of people get. So, I mean, it's a good start for MLW.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
I know not only do they have their shows on Being Sports, I think they also eventually all go up on YouTube as well. So
They do.
Right.
Which is awesome. I love it.
I mean, it's just a fact of, is WWE tampering with these contracts as far as, are they talking to them why they're under contract? Because
you mean MLW?
Right. Well, no, is WWE talking to the MLW guys?
Oh, okay.
And the thing is like, I can't see any of these guys' contracts coming up soon, because they must have, they would have just signed them right before they signed the TV deal, and that's just recent. They're only on like episode 4 or 5. So these guys' multi-year deals still have multi-years on them. So it's just a fact of, WWE, what are you doing? You already got in trouble with Ring of Honor. They threatened to sue. Now you've got MLW over here like, hey, what's going on? I did see I think it was on Fightful today, a quote from Court Bauer stating that he actually witnessed some WWE people talking to some of his talent over WrestleMania weekend.
Rough.
So we'll have to see how it all does go down.
Absolutely. Continuing on here, we're going to send you guys to an interview with Sean Ross Sapp and Conrad Thompson. Check it out.
Is there any particular wrestler that maybe you talk to and you're like, man, even though the podcast market is kind of saturated, you're like, goddamn, you have to have a podcast?
Yep, and it's going to blow everybody's mind when I say it, but the answer is Jeff Jarrett.
I'm not surprised at all. Not surprised at all. That guy is stories for days.
He's done everything. You talk about growing up, second generation, your dad's a promoter, you got heat with all the boys coming in right away, and then as if that's not enough, now you're going to bounce around. You're going to start working with the WWF, walk out in the middle of the biggest angle of your life, and then wind up in a good position on WCW, talk your way into being a horseman, and then find yourself back on WWF TV without a contract, sort of talking smack about the biggest draw in the history of the business and saying his gimmick is essentially sacrilegious. It's just so fascinating. And that's before we ever get to, oh, we're going to hold you up for money and walk out and then go lay down for Hulk Hogan at Bash at the Beach 2000 and then get fired on national TV by the only promoter left and then say, you know what, I'm going to start my own company, start a company from scratch and run out of money almost immediately, go find funding from a guy who's going to go to prison for securities fraud like our Alabama version of Enron. And as if that's not enough, a lady calls on him to sell him PR for his failing wrestling company. And it turns out her parents are billionaires and he saves it, but his wife passes away. So he starts having sex with the top draw in the company. This is make-believe. How is this real? It's such a fascinating story. Nobody has his story. And if I can ever talk him into doing a podcast, I will make time to do a Jeff Jarrett podcast. That dude has a story like nobody has a story.
If you guys do want to see the full interview, head over to Fightful.com to check it out. Now, if you are part of the Fightful Wrestling Weekly, you have probably seen the Raw and Smackdown scripts. So, we're going to talk about them right here. Tim, what did Sean Ross Sapp, the man that's very mean to me at times, has to write? He's very mean. I don't know why.
The man that met the man that met your mother.
The man that met my mother.
Anyways.
I don't know how.
Sean writes, couldn't track down any production info for SmackDown Live, but it's worth noting that Raw's script had a lot of the direct reads for the announcers, the overly scripted dialogue that so many are forced to spew. SmackDown Live didn't have that at all. Also, anytime an enhancement talent is used, they're referred to as local. For the shows themselves, SmackDown was given the title Mystery Men. Raw was dubbed Spirit of Competition. Not that it really matters, but we can confirm the Raw script underwent 4 revisions before being finalized. Oof. That information wasn't available for the SmackDown Live, however. The scripts, I don't even go over my essays 4 times when I was in high school. I went over. I didn't even go over them once. I just turned them in. You just wrote it and said, "Here you go. If it's wrong, it's wrong."
So many grammatical errors. It's a lot like you posting videos.
Hey now, the scripts.
That's for the comments that always say we make typos. I notice it too.
It's a gimmick. Anyway, Sean goes on to say, the scripts on any given week may or may not contain information about debuts, returns, producers, referees, who helped to write or film a segment, etc. They regularly contain specific reads, but even for this perspective, it definitely seems like more times and or care is given to the Raw script than the SmackDown script. Off air, Michael Cole joked to both production and the commentary team that maybe they should come back to Albany more often because he actually got cheered. Sean also finally writes that when he is able to get the Raw and SmackDown scripts, he does put them up on their Fightful Select service for the members over there.
Yep. So if you guys do want to be a member of Fightful Select, check out at Fightful Online on Twitter. They're going to have direct links for you right there.
Just go to FightfulSelect.com.
Oh, go to FightfulSelect.com. Silly me.
Yep,
so,
yep.
To end out this week's edition of the Fightful Wrestling Weekly, I mean, we're going to end it like we always do. We're going to show you the list in your boy. Here's a clip from there. If you enjoy it, you can watch the full episode right here on Pro Wrestling Unlimited, or if you're looking at this on the Fightful website, right here on the Fightful website. Enjoy. I'm going to go eat pizza for dinner now. See you guys.
First and foremost, now that the business model has shifted, and 20, 30 years ago, live events was their bread and butter. That's where they made their money. You would watch TV, you would see a top talent against an enhancement guy, and then they would say, if you want to see that top talent go against this other top talent, you got to come out to the Cubs Coliseum on Saturday in Hamilton, right? That was their business model. It's completely shifted. If I'm Vince McMahon, you want your talent healthy for your TV.
Exactly.
Right?
Priority number one.
Priority number one. Who gives a shit if you're going to get 4,000 people in Albany on Friday night? You want them healthy for your TV. You get what I'm saying, right? So the first thing that I would do is I would cut down on the live schedule.
Yeah, they don't make any giant amount of money off of that, from what I understand. Anyway, I'd have to take a look at the numbers, but
they do okay. It's still a
they do
a revenue stream, right? And
I mean, they wouldn't have to run any live events if they didn't want to.
No, but I'm not suggesting they do that.
Exactly.
Because a lot of the talent, like Daniel Bryan comes to mind, a lot of the talent likes the live events because they have freedom on the live events. And Chris Jericho even said on his podcast, I wanted to come back and just do live events.
Batista too,
because they have freedom and because they still have a passion for what they do. I'm not saying eliminate them. What I'm saying is instead of running Toronto 3 times a year, maybe you run it twice. Right?
Exactly.
Instead of the guys on the road 5 days a week, including travel days, maybe they're on the road 4 days a week. Maybe they're doing TV on Monday, TV on Tuesday for the other teams, pay-per-views on Sunday, maybe one other day kind of thing, right? On top of that, what's it going to hurt WWE if they cover hotel and car rentals? What's it going to hurt?
Exactly.
Right?
Oh, also a little bit of a sneaky exclusive. From what I understand, WWE does not plan on running Christmas and Christmas Eve this year, or at least it's not on their schedule right now, because I mean that was a big uproar backstage last year. They were not happy.
Yeah, but that's a minor thing, Sean. And again, back in the 80s, 70s, Christmas was one of the big holidays.
It ain't then anymore, though.
No, you're
it's
right.
Not that. And they are
you're
a
right.
TV company,
Yeah.
and they have the week off leading up to that. They are going to run the December 26th show, though. Those are big live events
at
for
MSG,
them.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
MSG, and I think Chicago, they're doing that annually now.
Okay.
They're splitting it up, and they're doing All-State and MSG.
Okay. So what I would do, again, if it was me, I would cut down on the live event schedule. Maybe 3 shows a week instead of 4. That's number one. Even 2 a week some weeks. That's number one. Number 2, I would pay for their hotel and rental car. And I know, again, talking to guys or reading books like Daniel Bryan's book where he talked about how developmental, I don't know if they still do now, but they used to have hotel and rental cars paid for if you're on a developmental contract. And Daniel Bryan would talk about how he would ride with some of the developmental guys because it was covered. Right? Mm-hmm. So I would take care of that. And then the third thing I would do, Sean, and we've talked about this before, is I would implement time off cycles where I would give a guy 6 weeks off, 2 months off on some kind of a rotation once or twice a year. Because number one, they come back rejuvenated, they come back excited, and they come back hot because the TV audience hasn't seen them in a while.
Yeah.
So I would absolutely do that. And I think that if they did something as simple as that stuff, it's not a ton of money coming out of WWE's pocket. And you're going to have a happier talent roster, especially when you consider that roster is going to be looking at that thinking they're making 3 times the money and where's my piece?
Yeah.
Because they're going to be thinking it.
Of course they will.
Yeah.
And a way to not have to raise the pay going forward is, like you said, take care of hotel, take care of the rental, and
time off.
Time off helps. Yep. Time off helps so much. I mean, a lot of WWE wrestlers get paid above what I think that most people perceive that they do. Like they live very, very well.
The top guys do.
I mean, all of them do pretty well. They're living pretty well. But
you think Bo Dallas is having a good time?
Yeah.
You think Bo Dallas is having a good time?
Yes, that Bo Dallas is doing well for himself.
Define well.
Oh, let's see. He's a 26-year-old who's been on the main roster for 4 years doing nothing. Yeah, he's doing pretty well for himself.
Okay, Sean, I'm gonna tell you a story.
He's doing well for himself to be there.
I'm gonna tell you a story, Sean. And this is going to define my point. And I know you love my stories, and I know our listeners love my stories. So let me tell you this one. My wife, and this is a lot of people, but my wife is an example. She used to take her car for an oil change, right, to a town like 45 minutes away from our house.
Yeah.
And it's because she's always done that, right? And one day she was going to do that oil change, and I said to her, there's a Mr. Lube, which is like a Canadian chain. There's a Mr. Lube around the corner. Yeah. Why the hell don't you go to the Mr. Lube instead of going, 30 to 45 minutes out of your way? Well, but they have a deal. I'm going to save $20. And I said to my wife, what is your time worth? You can go around the corner 5 minutes, pay an extra $20, or you can waste 30 minutes one way, 30 minutes back, and save yourself $20. And that kind of flipped a switch in her mind. And now she understands that your time is of value. Bo Dallas is on the road 250 to 300 days a year, Sean. Who gives a shit if he makes $200,000 a year?
Him.
He's I get that they love it. Okay? But at the end of the day, when he looks at what did I actually take home for the year? I was on the road 200 some days a year. I paid for my own hotels. I paid for my own rental cars. I paid for my own food. How much did I take home? Probably not as much as you think.